Think about COVID-19. Most people imagine a virus jumping from animals to humans. A simple accident of nature. Something inevitable. But what if it wasn't so simple? What if the story we were told is only the surface? A thin layer hiding a much darker, more complex truth. The first whispers of the outbreak were ignored. Data was questioned, and scientists' warnings went unheard. Early reports from Wuhan suggested a virus unlike anything seen before. Yet the world reacted slowly, almost as if someone had already decided which direction this story would take. Some researchers claimed there were experiments on viruses that were never meant to leave laboratories, tiny modifications to test transmission and mutation, and that even small mistakes or deliberate actions could trigger a global event. Imagine a small, dimly lit laboratory, a researcher noticing inconsistencies in data, trying to warn high-ups, only to be silenced, dismissed, or re-signed. Around the world, governments were holding emergency meetings in secret, discussing containment, economic collapse, and the delicate balance between fear and control. Decisions were made within hours, lockdowns were imposed, borders closed, and suddenly billions of lives were altered in ways that seemed unprecedented. Some theories suggest it was merely an accident, a natural spillover from animals to humans, but others point to timing, coincidences, and the speed with which global responses were coordinated. History shows that in moments of crisis, leaders often make impossible choices, sometimes sacrificing a few to protect many, sometimes using fear to consolidate power. During this pandemic, entire industries were shuttered, economies disrupted, yet some entities appeared to benefit. Some countries gained strategic advantages, and the flow of money and resources shifted in ways that are difficult to explain without thinking about planning or intention. Consider the psychological side of this. What would it take for leaders to agree that the world must stop, that millions must stay isolated, that businesses must collapse, all for the sake of survival or control? Could it be that the virus was simply nature, but the response was orchestrated, or that nature provided an opportunity that powerful people could exploit? And what about the moral dimension, the meetings behind closed doors, where life and death decisions were debated, where data was interpreted not just scientifically, but politically and economically? Imagine a world where information is power, and the truth is filtered through layers of fear, propaganda, and secrecy. The researcher who noticed the first anomalies, the data that didn't add up, may never speak publicly, yet their warnings echo in the patterns we see today. Some historians point out that pandemics in the past were often leveraged for political gain, for resource control, or to accelerate agendas that would otherwise take years to implement. And so, the question lingers: was COVID-19 a simple accident, a natural occurrence? Or was it an event that certain people anticipated, perhaps even prepared for, knowing how the world might react? But let us go deeper. Consider the role of international organizations, how decisions on global health measures are debated quietly, often influenced by economics, geopolitics, and national interests. Picture the confidential briefings, the urgent calls between heads of state, health officials, and corporate leaders, where projections of death tolls are weighed against potential financial collapse. Every number on those sheets represents a life, a family, a society. And yet decisions must be made swiftly. Some insiders claimed that discussions were not just about slowing a virus, but about controlling the narrative, managing the panic, and shaping a new reality where compliance could be tested on a global scale. These claims remain unverified, but they add to the pattern of unanswered questions, coincidences, and timing that continues to fuel curiosity. Let us not forget the human stories, the doctors and nurses on the front lines, the whistleblowers, the laboratories that suddenly closed, and the mysterious disappearances of data that should have been public. All of these small details weave a much larger tapestry, one that suggests the pandemic is not just a medical phenomenon, but a reflection of human decision-making, secrecy, and control. Think about history. In every major crisis, from wars to economic collapses, there are hidden meetings, calculated choices, and moral compromises. Governments decide who lives and who suffers, sometimes in ways that remain secret for decades. What if COVID-19 was another example, a mirror to show us the fragility of our systems and the speed at which our freedoms can be curtailed? Consider the flow of information during those early days. Social media silenced some voices, amplified others, creating confusion, fear, and obedience. Every report, every leaked study, every conflicting statement became a piece of the puzzle. Meanwhile, entire populations were instructed to stay home. Economies paused, borders locked, schools closed, and the world seemed to collectively hold its breath. The virus itself was a threat, but the response far more revealed how governments, corporations, and international bodies can shape reality in ways invisible to ordinary citizens. And yet, despite all this, life continued, adaptations were made, and slowly, patterns began to emerge. Some countries appeared more prepared, some benefited strategically, and others struggled Was it luck, or something more deliberate? Perhaps the most unsettling aspect is that even now, we may never know the full truth. The small laboratories, the emergency meetings, the moral dilemmas, the silenced warnings, and the coincidental timing, they are all shadows. Glimpses of a story far more complex than any headline or report. COVID-19 may have been a virus, but the aftermath exposes our vulnerabilities to control, secrecy, and fear. It reminds us that the world can change overnight, not just because of nature, but because of the decisions humans make when power, fear, and survival intersect. And so as we look back, we must ask ourselves, was this pandemic truly accidental, or was it a convergence of nature and opportunity, a test of the human world, a moment where the fragility of our civilization was revealed? History suggests that such moments often leave questions unanswered, truths hidden, and mysteries that may never be solved. And perhaps that is the ultimate lesson, that while viruses come and go, the choices we make, the decisions made above our knowledge, and the secrets that shape our lives leave shadows longer than any disease ever could. So when you reflect on COVID-19, consider not just the virus itself, but the patterns of power, secrecy, and human behavior that it unveiled. The meetings behind closed doors, the moral dilemmas, the whispers of warnings unheeded, and the subtle signs that reality may not always be as it seems. Ask yourself, if this could happen once, could it happen again? And what does it say about the world we live in, about the forces shaping our lives, and the fragility of the systems we trust to protect us? The virus may fade, but the questions remain, and the story is far from over. If you found this exploration intriguing, unsettling, or eye-opening, make sure to hit the subscribe button